you all know the definition of a tissue, right? That tissue is a group of cells, and these cells have come together with a purpose of a function, and they come from a common origin. तो ये सारे सेल्स साथ में आए, क्यों साथ में आए? ताकि उनको एक स्पेसिफिक फंक्शन करना है, और उनका ओरिजिन जो है वो सेम है। तो ये वाला बात तो मुझे समझ में आ गया कि they have come together for a common function. But what do you mean by a common origin? Human beings में common origin का मतलब क्या होता है? So if you recollect our lectures, then you have been told that human beings are triploblastic in origin. We arise from three germinal layers. Who are these three germinal layers? They are the ectoderm, mesoderm, and the endoderm. So all the tissues in the human body come from these three germinal layers. And these three germinal layers can be visualized in this manner. The outermost layer, that is the ectoderm, will result in the formation of a tissue system called nervous tissues. The the mesoderm results in the formation of tissues called connective and muscular, whereas the epithelia can come from the endoderm, mesoderm as well as the ectoderm. तो इससे ये पता चला कि when we say common origin, it means ecto, meso, endo. ठीक है? And while describing this, I just mentioned the four tissue systems: epithelial tissue system, connective tissue system, muscular tissue system, and the nervous tissue system. ऐसे कितने टिश्यू सिस्टम्स हुए? चार. एपिथीलिया हमने कहा उनका जो कॉमन ओरिजिन है, it can be from either of the three germinal layers. It can come from the ecto, meso और endo. जैसे एपिथेलियल टिश्यू आपके बॉडी के अलग अलग पार्ट्स में. So, for example, the epithelia that is found in your inner lining of the stomach, it is endodermal in origin. So, depending upon the examples, it will have different origin. So, the key point is that the epithelial tissues, their origin can be from any of the three layers, whereas the muscular tissues, they are mesodermal, connective tissues also mesodermal, nervous tissue also ectodermal. Once again, tissues are a group of cells. Okay. Now, first tissue system, that is epithelial tissues. Let us break up the word. Here we have epi and thelia. So the meaning of the word epi is upon. Thelia का मीनिंग होता है surfaces. So अब इसको एक सेंटेंस में लेके आते हैं. Epithelial tissues are the tissues which are present upon the surfaces. Upon surfaces of whom, sir? These are upon the surfaces of connective tissues. Okay? तो इमेजिन करिए कि आपका लैपटॉप, आपका फ्रिज, ये एक कनेक्टिव टिश्यू, उसके ऊपर एक बबल रैप है, और वो बबल रैप जो है वो एपिथेलियल टिश्यू है. इसलिए इसको बोलते हैं एपिथीलिया, अपॉन द सरफेसेस. नाउ एपिथेलियल टिश्यूज, एनसीईआरटी एक बढ़िया पॉइंट बताती है दैट हम एक एग्जांपल के साथ करेंगे, एंड देन विल सी द एनसीईआरटी का लाइन. सो वी हैव द स्टमक, and look at these blue cells that I'm drawing here. Can I say they are covering the external free surface of the organ? And look at these red cells. And I'll say that these red cells are covering the internal free surface of that organ. This internal free surface, which is facing a body cavity. So epithelial tissues are the covering tissues which are found upon the surfaces of the organs, as well as the internal free surface upon the surfaces, as well as they are found on the internal free surface which faces a body cavity. Okay. Epithelial tissues are also found covering the organism. They are also found covering the organism. So if you have this human being, imaginary human being over here, then we have got the skin, and the outermost layer of the skin is an epithelia. So they cover the external free surface even of an organism. So that in short is about the introduction of epithelial tissues. Two more additional points you'll remember here. One, the epithelial tissues are always present on a non-cellular membrane, which is called basement membrane. It is acellular. It is not made up of any cells. Rather, it is made up of carbohydrates and proteins. Second thing, these epithelial tissues are non-vascular. मतलब मोस्ट ऑफ द एपिथेलियल टिश्यूज का खुद का कोई ब्लड सप्लाई नहीं होता, इसलिए उनको निर्भर रहना पड़ता है इन कनेक्टिव टिश्यूज के ऊपर। कनेक्टिव टिश्यूज के पास जो ब्लड सप्लाई है, वहां से न्यूट्रिएंट्स डिफ्यूज होंगे अप टू द एपिथेलिया। सो इन शॉर्ट, epithelial tissues are the covering tissues. They are upon the surfaces of the connective tissues. They line the external and the internal free surfaces of the organs as well as the organisms. They are present on a basement membrane, and they are mostly avascular tissues. Epithelial tissues की एक खासियत है, एक और, that in between the cells there is a very little or no intercellular space. तो ये एक ऐसा टिश्यू का टाइप है जहाँ पे सेल्स एकदम क्लोजली पैक्ड है। ओके, अब if you want to classify them, the epithelia, let us see how can they be classified. They can be classified into two main types. Okay, let us go point wise. They can be classified into two main types. One is simple epithelium. Simple epithelium, जहां पे हमारे पास basement membrane है, and it has only a single layer of cells. So now that will be called as a simple epithelium. वहीं पे, if you have a basement membrane with multiple layers of cells, then that is considered as a compound epithelium. So the basis for classification is the number of layers. Single layer, simple; multiple layers is compound epithelium. Simple epithelium, depending upon the shape of the cells. If the cells are flat chapter cells, it is called squamous. Cube-like cells, it is called cuboid. Okay? All column-like cells, it is called columnar. So simple epithelia, depending upon the shape, is squamous, cuboidal, and columnar. ये जो टाइप है, जो हमने मेंशन किया सिनॉप्सिस में, दैट इज ग्लैंडुलर, ये वो कॉलमनार और क्यूबॉइडल सेल्स है which have taken up a special function, and that special function is secretion. So when the cuboidal cells and the columnar cells perform the function of secretion, that time it is called glandular. Pseudo-stratified is just for your reading. The first type, that is the simple epithelium, में पहला type, the squamous epithelium, right? Now, so we have this simple squamous epithelium, and let us pay attention to this. Look at the shape of the cells. These are flattened cells, chapte, flattened cells. ठीक है. And these are the prominent nuclei, आराम से दिखाई देने वाले nuclei. The shape of the cells is polygonal. ये जो shape है वो. Between the cells, there is very little intercellular space. Another important thing is, look at these boundaries, cell boundaries. Okay, these are irregular. So these are the properties of simple epithelium. The simple epithelial cells, squamous type, correct? Simple epithelium squamous. To be more precise, what we are talking about right now. It performs the function of a diffusion boundary. तो देखिए ये एक important word है NCERT में कि the squamous epithelium is a diffusion boundary. तो जैसे आप जानते हो बाउंड्री दो चीजों को सेपरेट करता है. डिफ्यूजन बाउंड्री बाउंड्री भी है but also allows the movement of molecules across it. Because the squamous epithelium are thin, flat cells, they allow the diffusion of materials across them, thus forming a diffusion boundary. To give you a couple of good examples together, inner lining of alveoli, endothelium of blood vessels, which show the presence of a simple squamous epithelium. देखते हैं जरा. So lungs में ये एयर सैक्स है जिसको हम बोलते हैं alveoli. इनकी लाइनिंग है स्क्वामस एपिथेलियम. ये ब्लड कैपिलरीज है. इनकी भी लाइनिंग है स्क्वामस एपिथेलियम. ब्लड कैपिलरीज की लाइनिंग को ही कहा जाता है एंडोथेलियम. Oxygen can easily diffuse across the epithelia into the blood. Carbon dioxide can easily diffuse out into the alveoli. So भले ही boundary है, but still it is a diffusion boundary. So that is why the epithelial tissues function as a diffusion boundary. The other locations that we have mentioned over here is that they are also present in the walls of the Bowman capsule. So the nephron, the wall, inner wall helps in filtration of blood, and distal limb of Henle's loop. The nephron has got Bowman's capsule and the descending limb and the ascending limb. So here it will help in the diffusion of water. Here it will help in the filtration of blood. Here it will help in the diffusion of gases. Here it will help in the diffusion of nutrients. So it is functioning as a diffusion boundary. So one of the function of squamous epithelium is it's a diffusion boundary. So simple epithelia में पहला type squamous. So simple epithelia also help in the process of diffusion. The second type among the simple epithelium is simple cuboidal epithelium. तो भैया इसका नाम क्यों ऐसा? Because they're cube-like cells. So from the diagram itself, we can know that they're cube-like cells. Look at the nucleus. Once again, the nucleus is in the center, right? Where are these cells present? So you have got a salivary gland with a salivary duct. तो imagine करो ये salivary gland है और ये उसका duct है. So the duct is lined by cuboidal epithelium. So we got a pancreas and we got a pancreatic duct which is lined by the cuboidal epithelial cells. Then even the proximal and the distal convoluted tubules, ovaries, the germinal epithelium, the seminiferous tubules. These are all the different places where you will find the cuboidal epithelium. One interesting point to note is that the cuboidal epithelial cells, okay, the cuboidal epithelial cells have some modifications That is, this is the basement membrane. This is the cuboidal epithelium. Touches the basement membrane. It's called as the proximal end, and the far away end is called as the apical end or the distal end. Okay, so we have the two ends, that is proximal end and the apical end. तो काफी बार हमको ये देखने मिलता है that the apical end shows the presence of these finger-like projections. It shows the presence of finger-like projections. I'll draw them again. I'm talking about the apical end. Okay. So the basement membrane, apical end पे ये finger-like projections है. These are microscopic finger-like projections, which are called microvilli. So you get this word over here, microvilli, increasing the surface area. Right? This is one of the modification of the cuboidal epithelium. The second type of modification of cuboidal epithelium is the cuboidal epithelial cells will show the presence of these modified centrioles called basal bodies, and from them arise the hair-like structures which are called cilia. Hair-like structures जिसको हम कहते हैं cilia. तो we have got two type of cuboidal epithelial cells. एक जिनके पास माइक्रोविला है and they will increase the surface area for either absorption or secretion. And the ciliated cuboidal epithelium, the cilia will beat, move, and help in the transport. Okay. If we see where are these microvilli present, proximal convoluted tubule, where are the ciliated cuboidal present, then they are on the neck of the nephron. So that is about the cuboidal epithelial cells. So now let's continue with the third type of simple epithelium. That is a simple columnar epithelium. So as the name suggests, and as you can see in the synopsis diagram, that these cells are elongated cells, tall cells, which are elongated. So let's talk about the third type of simple columnar epithelium. The third type of simple epithelium, that is the columnar epithelium. So as you can see, the cells are tall cells, right? And the nucleus is an elongated nucleus which is towards the base. So these are the cells. यहाँ पे अगर ये cell में बनाओ तो nucleus is towards the base. Okay, and this apical surface, free surface, is broader. So this is the basement membrane. We have got tall columnar pillar-like cells where the nucleus is towards the base. That is your columnar epithelium. And the columnar epithelium is present in the inner surface of the intestine, inner lining of the stomach, the gallbladder, and the uterus. Some cells of the columnar epithelium, they get modified to form goblet cells. So we have some cells in the inner lining of the stomach which secrete mucus. And these mucus secreting cells are called goblet cells. Okay. Now, this is in general about the simple columnar epithelium. The simple columnar epithelium has a modification. And one of the modification, as you can see here, is the presence of cilia. These structures called cilia. Such a ciliated columnar epithelium is present in the inner lining of the respiratory tract. That is, you have the bronchi, you have the bronchi, bronchioles, you have the trachea, sorry, bronchi, the bronchioles, which are lined by the cilia, which help to trap the dust particles. Then, in the fallopian tubes, so the oviducts, which are called the fallopian tubes, these are the fallopian tubes. They're lined by the cilia and they help in the movement of the female gamete. So, in conclusion, हमको ये ध्यान में रखना है कि अगर ciliated columnar epithelium है, तो it will help in the transport of substances over it, or it helps in the movement of liquids that are there. जैसे हमारा जो ब्रेन है, ब्रेन के अंदर एम्प्टी स्पेसेस है जिसको बोलते हैं वेंट्रिकल्स, उसके अंदर एक फ्लूइड है जिसको बोलते हैं सीएसएफ. So the movement of these cilia in the ventricles help in the movement of the cerebrospinal fluid. So that was about the columnar epithelium, ciliated type. The columnar epithelium has a type where it can show these finger-like projections that are called as the microvilli. And these microvilli ones, they can be found in the intestinal wall, where they'll help in the absorption of nutrients. So overall, what are the points to remember? You should know the name of the three simple epithelial tissues: squamous, cuboidal, columnar. Then their correct locations and their correct functions. ये तीन टेकअवेज होने चाहिए आपके इस पर्टिकुलर सिनॉप्सिस के. Moving further, the compound epithelium. So, according to the NCRT, which is discussed, only one type of compound epithelium. Okay, that is the stratified compound epithelium, which is keratinized. ये वाला डिस्कस किया हुआ. तो compound epithelium, as you know, it is multi-layered. Important thing is it has a role to play against protection against chemical and mechanical stresses. So with one example, we have the skin. The skin is an organ. Outermost layer of the skin is a compound epithelium. As a result of which, it will protect your body from physical, that is mechanical, as well as chemical stresses. Okay. और ये जो कंपाउंड एपिथेलियम होता है स्किन के ऊपर उसको केराटिनाइज्ड बोलते हैं, क्योंकि उसके जो टॉप लेयर्स होते हैं, सेल के जो टॉप लेयर्स होते हैं, उनके पास एक प्रोटीन होता है जिसको हम कहते हैं केराटिन. So for the MCQs, always remember that they have a limited role in secretion and absorption. That is the function which is done by the simple columnar and cuboidal type. Whereas their main role is to protect against chemical and mechanical stresses. So they cover the dry surface of the skin, okay, where they are keratinized. Also the moist surface of the buccal cavity, mouth cavity, inner lining of the salivary glands and the pancreatic ducts. So that is about the compound epithelium, stratified, keratinized types. Okay. When the cuboidal and columnar cells get modified and perform the functions of secretion, that time they are called glandular. If it is a single cell which secretes mucus, it's a goblet cell. More than one cells, they are called multicellular. Then the glandular epithelium हम ऐसे define करेंगे, it is a group of cells or a cell which performs the function of secretion. Secretion means synthesis and release. So if the synthesis and release is in the blood without any duct, it's an endocrine secretion. If it is with a duct, it's called exocrine secretion. So on the basis of secretion, it can be exocrine, or it can be endocrine. Exocrine glands include salivary glands which secrete saliva, the bile, tear, sweat, all these milk, mammary glands, all these secretions come under exocrine. पैनक्रियाज एक ऐसा ऑर्गन है जिसके पास दोनों टाइप के टिश्यूज है, एक्सोक्राइन एज वेल एज एंडोक्राइन. So that is why it falls under the category of heterocrine. Okay, this is not needed as of now, so we can remember them on the basis of the number of cells and on the basis of the site of secretion. Another important property of the epithelial tissues is the presence of cell junctions. So as you recollect, when two cells come close to each other, that is called the cell junction. Cell junction is a point of contact between the two cells. It is found in different type of tissues, even epithelia, some type of muscular, and the neurals. They show the presence of cell junctions. Now, the three types of cell junctions are the tight junctions, adherent junctions, and the gap junctions. So as you recollect, जब दो cells एक दूसरे से बहुत ही क्लोज होते हैं, बीच में गैप नहीं होता और प्रोटीन्स होती हैं, such junctions are called tight junctions and they prevent leakage across the tissue. So that is how we'll remember, prevent leakage for MCQs. Where are they found? In the stomach, intestine, and the urinary bladder. The second type, adherent junction. So there are two cells which are coming close, and as you recollect, we have told you that they show the presence of the depositions of proteins, protein plaques. So the two cells will come close and it will prevent separation. So they will be cemented together. So adherent junction perform cementing. Gap junctions, on the other hand, there are two cells, and in between the two cells, there is a small intercellular space and these protein tunnels, connexons, through which transport can take place. So therefore, quick cytoplasmic connection and signal transferring. So यहाँ पे from the MCQ point of view, you'll remember the three types of junctions and their functions that they perform. So this was about the epithelial tissues.